Hello, in this demo I'd like to explain the concept of global network firewall policies on Google Cloud Platform, and for that I'm going to use simple topology. In my topology I have a project. As a part of the project I have VPC created. Within the VPC there's a subnet, and within the subnet there are two compute instances. Within the demo we're going to try to block the traffic between those two instances using new concept of secure tags. Secure tags are a little different than the tags that you might know from Google Cloud Platform that already existed for some time. So there are two concepts of tags currently. There are network tags and secure tags, and those two are very much different. So network tags is the concept that can be used within VPC firewall rules. And VPC firewall rules is the place where you would configure firewall rules, and a very common place where you would do it. You can also do it on two different levels. You can do it on org firewall policy and folder firewall policy, but VPC firewall rules are so far the most popular way to do it and the most common way to do it. Apart from that, what's been recently announced and implemented is two new levels: global network firewall policy and regional network firewall policy. And those two additional levels, they actually allow us to assign secure tags. And the difference between secure tags and network tags is that secure tags have the capability of IAM privileges, meaning that you can be very specific and granular in saying who can assign the specific tag to the instance. And you can control using IAM privileges, as we're going to show later. Another benefit, and there's a couple more, but another big one is that those are centrally managed. As you might know, with network tags, you didn't have that central management platform for your tags. You couldn't control what tags are being assigned to instance, and people could create the tags themselves, make them up. So it's a very distributed model. With secure tags, that has changed. So just wanted to clarify that network tags are not the same as secure tags, but secure tags are sometimes referred to as resource manager tags or just tags on Google Cloud Platform. On Google Cloud, firewall are processed from top to bottom. So any traffic that enters the firewall is treated from top to down, starting from org firewall policies, for folder firewall policies, then VPC firewall rules, and on each level the decision is made. So only if the decision is not made on the level, then the traffic is processed to the next level. Meaning that if the traffic is either allowed or blocked on one of the level, it doesn't check, the Google Cloud doesn't check the further configuration. It just allows or denies the traffic. Only if the traffic is hitting that go to next label that you can explicitly configure on org firewall policies or folder firewall policies, then it's gonna go to the next level. The thing is a little different with VPC firewall rules. With VPC firewall rules, you don't have configuration to specify that go to next level. So that go to next level will be triggered only in the case where you don't have specific firewall rule to either allow traffic or deny traffic. So only in that case, it will go to that next level where you can hit global network firewall policies and regional network firewall policies. So that's the normal order, like the default order of processing the rules. But within our lab, what we're gonna also do, we're gonna swap the order using the command shown on the screen. So when we run this command, the processing order is changed, and instead of processing VPC firewall rules first, we're processing global network firewall policies and regional before VPC firewall rules are hit. Okay, let's take a look at our Google Cloud configuration in Google Cloud Console. So in here under VM instances, we've got a couple of virtual machines, but we'll be interested in those two. First one is EU Dev Instance 1 and EU Prod Instance 1. As you can see, both are in the same VPC network, and they have IP addresses and external IP addresses assigned as well, but external IP addresses are not important at this stage. At our tag configuration, to take a look at tag configuration, we're gonna move to org level config, and under org level configuration we're gonna move to IAM and then go to our tags. And in tags there are multiple tag keys configured. The interesting one for us is the one that is environment, env actually. So env states for environment in my case, and environment I've got like reasonable structure, I think, that basically tries to divide my environment to dev, prod, and test. So the structure of the tag is that there's a tag key. In my case, that tag key is environment, and under tag key there are tag values. Each instance can have up to 10 maximum tag assigned, secure tags assigned, with the only limitation that each tag assigned to instance needs to be a part of different tag key. Meaning that if I would like to assign tag value dev and prod to one instance, and those dev prod is part of the same tag key, then it wouldn't be possible. But on the other hand, if I would create another tag key, and then in that tag key that can be called, for example, I don't know, operating system, and in operating system I would have different tag values, then I can assign multiple tag values in that case. And what's important here is also that the purpose of those tags, is saying that those tags can be used for network firewall, and specifically it's saying that it can be used by my VPC network network VPC network. What's secure about security tags is the access to the tags. So each tag, if you click on it, there's additional section that is that IAM section, in which you can actually manage access to the tags. So you can actually tell who can use those tags, who can assign those tags, who can administrate those tags. In my case, I'm gonna use the owner role to assign the tags to my virtual machines, but you can be very specific by giving the access to specific tags to specific org units or users or groups of users. So that, as you can imagine, that can increase security a lot if you have that flexibility of restricting certain users from assigning certain tags and allowing certain tags to be assigned to certain users. It doesn't have that potential overuse of the network tags, in which you don't have that restriction. And on top of that, you've got central management for those tags. As you can see, it's on the org level, not distributed like in the case of network tags. Okay, so I have tags created. It's pre-configured. Before the lab started, I've pre-configured all the tags just to spend a little bit more time on the explanation. Let's try to assign our tags to our compute instances. Just recently, it's been enabled the option to allow to assign those tags from Cloud Console. So let's try this option. We're first gonna assign the tag to my dev instance. Okay, it's already assigned. So I'm just gonna remove it and assign it once again, just to show you how it looks like. It's environment and dev, and just save it. And the same tag or the tag should already be assigned to my prod instance. And yeah, it's there under prod, it's environment prod. This tag is assigned. And now let's try to use those tags in the firewall rules. Let's go to firewall rules, go to firewall. Currently, you can see the structure of my firewall. Going from the top, we've got firewall policies for the project or for the level. Then in the VPC firewall rules, you can see my firewall rules for different networks. I've got default network, but what we're interested in is our allow SSH and allow ICMP rules for my Leszek network. And currently what I'm allowing to the machines is the ICMP traffic and TCP traffic on port 22. And if I go to my machines, I can see I have a ping running between those two machines, and the ping is actively pinging from my dev instance to my prod instance, and the other way around, just to show that it's the communication is there. And of course I have port 22 open to connect to my instances. On the bottom, I've got my firewall policies. In the firewall policies, I already have some firewall policy created, but we're just gonna delete this one and create a new one. Create firewall policy to block the traffic between dev and prod. Block dev to prod. I'm gonna select option global, then continue, and then let's add firewall rule with priority of 10. Enable logs. It's ingress firewall rule that will deny traffic with this specific secure tags. In my case, I'm just gonna select environment prod and then a secure tag environment to dev, and I want to deny all such traffic. So let's create the rule, continue. Important part is to assign that policy to VPC network. I can assign it here or assign it later, and I can assign the same firewall policy to multiple VPCs. That speeds up a lot the creation of the firewall policies if you have multiple VPC network that need to follow the same structure of the firewall policies. Let's associate, let's click create, and I'm gonna stop video and resume when it's created. Okay, the policy is created, so let's take a look about what's happening with our ICMP traffic between the two machines. Okay, so ICMP traffic is still flowing, so let's try to understand why is this happening. Very helpful will be this chart that is explaining what happens with the traffic. So our traffic is currently going top down, so it's going through org firewall policy, further firewall policy, then it's hitting VPC firewall rules, and in firewall rules we've got the firewall rule to allow the traffic. In our case it's ICMP traffic, so we're hitting the rule and allowing the traffic. So in this case our traffic never goes to further checks, it never goes to global network firewall policy, and in this case it's just not hitting our block statement. So we've got two options to resolve it. Option one is to make sure our traffic will not hit any specific firewall rule, but instead it will go to that go to next statement. And we could achieve it in very simple way, is by removing allow ICMP traffic. And what would happen in that case, the traffic would simply go to next level, and on the next level we've got that block statement to block the firewall, and that's option one. There's also option two. Option two, which we mentioned at the beginning of this training, is that what we're gonna do, we're actually just gonna change the order. So instead of processing VPC firewall rules first, we're gonna process global network firewall policies first. So for that, let's open our cloud share. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna run the command, gcloud alpha command, that will just say that our firewall policy should be enforced before classical firewall. Classic firewall meaning VPC firewall. Okay, so let's see if we blocked our traffic as it was our intention. So let's see our dev machine. Dev machine doesn't have any traffic. Prod machine is still having the pings. So let's see what we did wrong. Let's go to our block dev to prod. So we wanted to block both directions, and that's an ingress firewall rule, and our ingress firewall rule is blocking the traffic to dev ingress but not to prod. It's using source tag as a prod, so that's why in the result we're blocking traffic to dev but not to prod. So let's do the other way. Let's just add environment dev and the other direction environment prod, so that we block incoming both directions. And let's see the results now. Let's just make sure the changes are saved. Okay, something didn't save properly. Sometimes in GUI that might happen. So let's just go back, edit, environment dev, environment prod, deny. Now this one is as it was before, and this one maybe it's not clearly seen right now, but let's just try to do it once again, and you can see the traffic is blocked both direction. So that was like quick introduction to new feature of firewall, global firewall policies with secure tags.